Well, I think the point has been quite well discussed already by my colleagues here. We need to look at reduction of quantities. We need to really look at the value priority for all of us, and I think that's going to change quite dramatically the way people buy, and not only what they buy, but why they buy, how they buy it, where they buy from. So the whole thing is pretty much going to be different. One day we'll wake up from the nightmare and we're going to find a very different world. And it's actually up to us to make sure that it is a better world, because going back to the way things were is not something we should aspire to. Because normalcy, the old normality, is what got us into this mess in the first place. And so we should really take this opportunity to really clean the slate and start all over again in some shape or form. I know it's utopian to think that we can reinvent the whole planet overnight, but I think there's a lot of things that we can do now that we know better. And I think this is also, like some of us were saying, this is basically accelerating a process that was already on its way. We are very sad to see a lot of big retailers going under now. There's going to be more and more bankruptcies. There's a new one every day now. But to be absolutely fair and objective, we had way over capacity of retail, especially in the Western world. I'm not talking about emerging countries where it's still early days, and hopefully they won't follow our mistakes. But we were overextended. We have way too many stores, and more importantly, we have too many stores selling exactly the same stuff with no differentiation. When the only differentiation is I'm trying to be 50 cents cheaper than you, that's no differentiation. That's just me trying to screw my suppliers more so that I can try to keep my margins. That's not a sustainable business. Sustainability is about the planet, but it's also about the people, and it's also about the profits. And if you don't look at all the three elements, you really have nothing. So I think at the end of the day, it is as horrible as this is. I think this is a wonderful opportunity for all of us to start fresh and start doing things better. And I think there is a general misunderstanding as what design actually means, because to most people, and unfortunately even in our industry, the designer is just the guy who has to, or the girl who has to just make it pretty and make it nice for the customer, when it's completely misunderstanding. The design process is what actually determines the whole life cycle of the garment. If we took more attention in the design process of our garments, the whole thing would be much easier. Because right now, even with our best intentions, you have companies that try to overnight, they say, oh, now we're going to be sustainable. So they look at ways on how they can, God bless their souls, how they can minimize their footprint. But they're trying to retrofit something in a process that is not designed for that. So the right approach is actually to take a look at the whole life cycle of the garment from the get-go and say, this is where my garment is. Oh, Alberto is going for a walk. The life cycle of a garment, and this is what it's going to happen to the garment at the end when people stop using it, and what is going to go, how it's going to be disposed. So you really have to look at every single step and say, let me look at the raw materials that I'm using. Let me look at the yarns. Where is the cotton coming from? Where is the dye stuff coming from? Which factory is going to make it? How they're going to make it? What is the most efficient way to avoid waste of fabric? What kind of chemicals can I use to reduce my impact? How can I make sure that the packaging does not just end up on the shop floor? And how do I make sure that the garment at the end of the day, when it's exhausted, its usefulness as a garment, maybe can be used again for something else, or be recycled, or be upcycled, downcycled, or somehow avoided going into a landfill. Yeah, it's three priorities. One is pretty much a given. We'll have to look into rationalizing both fabric basis and garment basis, because it's quite frankly out of control. We think we're also smart. We're really a bunch of idiots. How many fabrics have you made over the history of your company, Amir? 15,000 maybe? But how many of those are really truly different fabrics? Same with you, Alberto. How many fabrics have you made just because we cannot say no to a customer and say, no, we have this one. It's exactly what you need. And eventually we'll have to get there, because we're all looking at incredible amounts of stocks out there, and inventories piling up all over the place of stuff that is actually perfectly good. There's nothing wrong with it, but we fell into this trap of this. It has to be new at all costs. We have to have seasonal newness. What the hell does seasonal newness mean in denim? Denim is same fabric that you can wear all year round. There's no. A lot of these things are self-inflicted. So I think now we're going to be forced to look at these things more rationally, and the reduction of quantity will come as a consequence. And I'm not advocating that we should raise our prices on everything. I understand that very well. There's a lot of people who cannot afford to buy expensive clothes. So it's not like overnight we can say, I reduced my quantities by 50%, I increased my prices by 25%, and I'm gold. It's not that simple. But one thing that we should work on together as an industry is to try and educate people. We've done a phenomenal job at miseducating our customers and let them believe that it was okay to buy all disposable stuff. I think people should realize that old saying, I think it's so good. It says, I am too poor to afford cheap clothes. And it's very true. If you buy cheap stuff, you end up spending a lot more at the end of the day, because you're going to have something that is not going to last, it's not going to have any quality, it's not going to have any strength or anything. So that's one major change that I would like to see in the industry. Second one, we've been talking ad nauseum about sustainability for the last 3 years. I hope people will not forget it right away and say, no, we're in survival mode now. We cannot afford to spend more to try to recycle, or to try to make better use of our resources. I see recycling facilities are struggling right now. Everything is being thrown away, thrown in the landfill. Used garments cannot be shipped because there's a fear of contamination. So there's a lot of issues that we need to focus on. And the third one that I think is pretty essential is that we really need to start looking at I think people should start looking at the definition of partnership again, because it's something that people have been talking about for so long. But now that the proverbial shit hits the fan, partnership is out of the window. And so many customers have shifted into panic mode. And it's not a judgmental call. I understand that when you're really with your back to the wall, you have to look at trying to save your skin. And it's easier to look at the immediate problems that you have to face now than looking at the consequences down the line. But all these partnerships that we've been talking about are pretty much moot right now. There's no partnership if you think it's okay to go to your largest suppliers and say, oh, sorry, by the way, all the orders that you produced, they're canceled, and everything that you have in your pipeline, it's canceled. And well, if we go back to work, maybe I'll come back to you, and I'm probably going to ask you for a substantial discount because I haven't been able to make my margin for the last 3 months. So we need partnerships more than ever. And brands, retailers, factories, textile operations, we all have to work together, because that's the only way to get out of this. We can't just keep pushing the buck down the line and just allow the lowest part of the operation to suffer the most. It's just not right.